Dr. Mike, you were one of the TV correspondents who made reportage from the Titanic wreckage. So tell us about it and your nearly-death experience which you had while you were underneath water.
We began our journey in Halifax, Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. And we went to the site where the Titanic sank on board the Academic Mitzlaff Keldysh. I hope I pronounced that properly. So then my dive was very good. It took us about 2.5 hours to go to the bottom, no problem. And then we arrived at the bow of the Titanic. It was a very emotional experience, something I will never forget. We paused for a moment of prayer for the many people who lost their lives down there, men, women, and children. And then we toured the bow. This is a 3-man sub. It's shaped like a teardrop. So I had a diving buddy, and then our pilot, Victor, was a former Russian jet fighter pilot. So very, very skilled, highly skilled man. And he toured us around the bow, and it was remarkable. I mean, I'll never forget it, very emotional. And then the problems began when we went from the bow to the stern. Our sub got caught in an underwater current, very fast moving. The current drove us right into the giant propeller of the stern section of the Titanic. It's gigantic compared to our sub. And so we got wedged between the blades and the inverted poop deck of the Titanic, and huge chunks of metal, rusted metal from the Titanic started falling down on us. It was, I mean, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what happened. Serious situation. This was a life and death situation.
So what do you think? How did you escape?
One of the big differences between my dive and the dive of the Titan, which sadly we have lost along with the passengers, is that the vessel I was in, Amir, it's the Russian word for peace. And it's been around for many, many years. And it was originally designed for scientific research. So this is a vessel that was designed by very serious-minded people for a very serious purpose. And imagine that our sub collided with the Titanic and it didn't spring a leak. I mean, it tells you how well made it is. And so it wasn't the fault of my sub. It was just that we got caught in an underwater current. By contrast, the Titan was built for tourism. It's a very different thing. And I'm not saying that it wasn't safe. It's not my position to say that. We will have an investigation and we will ask very tough questions. And we must demand honest answers. We must understand what happened that cost these 5 precious souls to lose their lives. And then we will fix it.
I have read your letter on Instagram, Dr. Michael, where you are saying that all commercial tours must stop in Titanic wreckage site.
But right now, I believe that the wisest and the right thing to do is to pause all tourist trips to the Titanic. I'm not going to go so far as to say we should pause all scientific trips, because as I say, that's a very different story. They involve vessels that are very, very safe, that have made many, many hundreds of trips up and down to the Titanic. The issue is this tourism business. And there is not sufficient regulation, I believe. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying that the Titan was unsafe. I'm merely saying we have lost 5 precious lives. At least we can just pause for a little bit and figure out what happened so that we can fix it and perhaps make it safe. However, even when we find out what went wrong and we can possibly avoid those mistakes if mistakes were made in the future, I still think we should take a very serious, hard look at the notion of tourism to the Titanic for 2 reasons. No matter how safe your vehicle is, the ocean is extremely dangerous. It's an extremely dangerous place. I remember when the night before I was going to dive, I went up to the captain's deck of the Academic Keldysh. Everybody else was asleep. I was all by myself. It was a very dark night. And I looked over the railing at the ocean in front of me, And I thought to myself, this was the last thing the people who died on the Titanic saw. I'm seeing what they saw. It was very emotional for me. And I had two impressions I came away from that experience. Number one, the ocean is restless. It's like a living beast. The movement of the ocean is constant, 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 and never rests 24/7. And it's just waiting for you to make one little mistake and it will swallow you up and you never be seen again. That was the first thing, very frightening, very sobering, made me very serious about what I was about to do. And then number two, I looked all around me and guess what I saw? 300, nothing. I still think we should think twice about allowing people to go down there just to be tourists. I think we have to ask two questions. Number one, why do you want to go down to the Titanic? And number two, how do you propose to get there? Is the vehicle truly safe? And I think we should demand honest answers. This is not a joyride. It should not be considered a joyride. It should not be like, oh, we're going to the beach, you know, to have a week's vacation. It's not. It's a serious, it's dangerous, it's serious. And the people who lost their lives now, 5 more, this is sacred ground. This is sacred ground for these people. This is their final resting place. And we must be very careful that we don't trespass this sacred ground for just because you want to have a look at the Titanic. So anyway, these are my thoughts about what we should do moving forward.
Dr. Michael, as you also been there and as a scientist, I want to know your opinion. What could go wrong? What's your opinion about it?
The question we need to ask is this carbon fiber material? It's a novel use of carbon fibers. Carbon fibers are very strong, but they do have a little flex to them. And I wonder, and this is mere speculation, this is a question we're going to need to answer. And I don't want to jump to any conclusions because we lost 5 precious lives, remember. We don't want to be speculating carelessly. That would be disrespectful to them. But I wonder if perhaps in previous dives, the flexing of the carbon fiber vessel created just a micro crack, a micro fracture that could never be detected except with X-ray inspection. And then perhaps that created a weak spot in the vessel. It only needs to be microscopic. It's like the old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And I think you can also say that the pressure vessel is only as strong as its weakest spot. If there was a microscopic weak spot, the pressures of the ocean, even though they were only 1 hour and 40 some minutes down, they were quite far enough down that the pressure from all directions by the water, just wanting to push, push, push. If it found a weak spot, that would have created the compression event, the implosion, instantaneously. And beautifully, it was painless. These people would have been so happy to be going down to the Titanic. They were 1 hour, only 43 minutes. They knew they were maybe only less than an hour away. I would imagine they would be very, very excited. And then the event happened, and it would have hit them before they even knew it. And so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that they didn't have to suffer long and hard. I suffered for a half hour or more. And I'm telling you, it felt like an eternity, because when you're down there trapped, buried alive underwater, it is like, whether you're trapped for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 30 hours, it's like an eternity. And I'm glad that they were spared that long, agonizing death. That's something to be grateful for.
Dr. Michael, when it was already known that all the people have died in the Titan, you posted this message on social media. People will naturally wonder if the journey to the Titanic was worth the cost of life. That's a deep question each person is entitled to answer for themselves. So what you think, was it worth of life?
When you stop and think about it, the 5 passengers on board the Titan were so different. I mean, you had PH, who was the French explorer who had been down to the Titanic so many times. He was a serious scientist. He wasn't going down there for a joyride. And then you had the CEO who owned the company, who was trying to make something special for passengers. And then you had these other people. They all had different motives. That's why I say in my statement, every person has to answer the question for themselves. Was it worth it, right? But the one thing we all have in common, PH, the CEO, the father and the son, the businessman, me, all the people, all the scientists who've been down there and back up again, we all have one thing in common, and that is there is something in us, there is something in the human species that is wired, it is hardwired into us, that wants to explore out there. We look up at the sky and we don't just say, oh, they're nice stars. No, we look up at the stars and say, I wonder what is up there. I want to go up there to find out. And this is not a mistake in human nature. This is not a quirk. This is not an eccentricity. This is what defines us. It is the essence of what it means to be a human being. It is what makes us different from all other animals. They're all about eating, sleeping, and procreating. There's more to us than that. We are not mere Darwinian animals. There is something within us, call it whatever it is. I call it the human spirit. There is the human spirit that makes us build these rocket ships that take us to the moon. Now we want to go to Mars, the stars. We build Titan. We build Mir to go down to the bottom of the ocean to explore the Titanic. I don't want to stop that. I am saying, though, let's be wise, and above all, let's be respectful. Respectful of Mother Nature, respectful of the forces of the ocean, and respectful of the people who are lying in peace, who lost their lives down there. That's all I'm saying.
Dr. Michael, you have been in so many remote places, including North Pole. And can you compare that feeling you had while you were underneath water in Atlantic Ocean to any other places?
You know, I've been all over the world. I've been to the North Pole, the South Pole. I've been in war zones. But the comparison was different between, let's say, the North Pole, which is also very dangerous. And I actually had a very dangerous situation there where we were on the ice and the ice broke apart and I was here and my plane was here and I couldn't get to my plane. So I thought, oh my gosh, I might be stranded in the Arctic Ocean. But the difference between that kind of fear or danger, let's say, and the one that I experienced in the Titanic, I think the Titanic was far more frightening. Because at least when I was in the North Pole, stuck on an ice floe, right, separated from my airplane, I was out in the open. I just felt like, okay, something will happen where I can get away. Maybe I'll just wait for the ice to come together, or maybe I walk around and I find a way around the crack in the ice. I felt that, okay, it's all right. Or maybe an airplane or a helicopter will come over and lift me up if I have to. You know, I didn't feel like, whoa. But with the Titanic, I mean, think about it. You're in this little container with two other people, 2.5 miles below the surface of the ocean. You literally have 2.5 miles of water above you. There is nothing in the North Atlantic. There's no one who can come to your rescue. You are literally buried alive. You are buried alive underwater. That, I think, is the scariest thing I've ever experienced. And I want to thank Victor. I cannot thank Victor. Victor, if you're listening or watching this, I want you to know how grateful I am to you for your skill, for your poise, for your professionalism. I also want to thank the captain of the Académie Keldysh. Very professional, prepared us. I want to thank the people who made the Mir submersibles. Those are amazing. They're still in operation. They'll probably outlive me. They'll probably be, once I'm already dead, the Mir submersibles will still be there. So I just want to express my love and gratitude. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Michael, for the interview. I hope next time we will discuss your amazing career.
God bless you. You have a beautiful day and you take care of yourself. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.